Security forces discovered a factory for manufacturing explosive devices and handmade rockets in Aleppo. Moscow and Baghdad reject foreign intervention in Syria's internal affairs. And France announces involvement in supplying armed groups in Syria with communication devices. Good afternoon, this is news in English from the Syrian Arab Television in Damascus. Security forces have restored security and calm to Al-Haffa district after clearing it from armed terrorist groups which terrorized citizens and sabotaged public and private properties. A closer look in the following report.
Security forces seized huge amounts of advanced weapons used by the armed terrorist groups in Al-Haffa, including sniper rifles, explosive devices, RPG launchers, and a large amount of ammunition. The terrorist groups turned Al-Haffa into a ghost city after displacing its residents through the crimes and attacks that they perpetrated against the people there. The terrorists burned down the national hospital that was providing health services to citizens. They also set fire to the finance, electricity, and water directorates in the city, vandalized cultural centers and the fuel station, broke into the houses and stole furniture, and dug roads by bulldozers. Latakia governor made a tour in the city and reviewed the measures to be taken to rehabilitate people utilities in the city as soon as possible.
Syrian border guards foiled an infiltration attempt made by armed terrorist groups into Syrian territories near Al-Zouf area in Idlib countryside. A source in the governorate said that border guards forces clashed with terrorists, killing and wounding a number of them, while others fled to the Turkish territories. 9 civilians and members of the military engineering units were injured yesterday in the blast of an explosive device planted by an armed terrorist group in Al-Qa'a region behind Al-Majid Mosque in Al-Midan neighborhood in Damascus. An official source said that military engineering units dismantled 2 explosives planted in electrical inspection cases when a third one exploded while they were trying to dismantle it, causing the injury of 9 civilians and military members, 3 of whom are in critical condition. The source said that the weight of each device is estimated at 7 kilograms. A terrorist group has targeted an oil pipeline near Abu Hammam area in Deir ez-Zor governorate, which led to breaking fire in the place of the explosion. Moreover, the guarding personnel of Al-Jafra oil field have managed to face an armed terrorist group, inflicting great losses on them, killing or wounding all attackers. The authorities discovered a factory for manufacturing explosive devices and handmade rockets on a farm that terrorists use as a hideout in Tel Jbin, north of Aleppo. A source in the governorate said that chemical materials used for manufacturing explosives and rockets and a big quantity of explosive devices were seized. Books teaching the Salafi doctrine and CDs, cameras, night vision goggles, and handmade rockets were also seized. Specialized authorities have managed to foil terrorist groups' infiltrations to Syria from Lebanese territories in different areas in Hom's governorate. The infiltration attempts were at Al-Jura area in Al-Qasir countryside, where authorities managed to kill 6 terrorists and wound 4 others, while the remaining members of the group fled to Lebanese territories. Similar incidents have taken place in Halat, Aziziyah, and Arida in Tel Kalakh countryside, as ambulance vehicles were seen carrying the injured members of the terrorist groups inside Lebanon. Competent authorities broke into the hideout of armed terrorist groups in Douma and its surrounding, following investigations and information offered by the people in that area. An official source in Damascus countryside governorate said that clashes between authorities and the terrorists resulted in the death of 3 terrorists and the injury and arrest of many others. France announces involvement in supplying armed groups in Syria with communication equipment to achieve victory over the Syrian Arab Army. More details in the following.
French Foreign Minister Laurent Fabius announced that France is considering supplying the armed groups in Syria with communication equipment so that to be victorious over the Syrian army forces. 2 days ago, France called for placing Annan's plan under Chapter 7. This statement clarifies that France has been exerting strenuous efforts to instigate the international community against Syria, call for military intervention in Syria, and offer military aid to the armed groups in Syria to achieve victory over the Syrian army. The French minister, who seems to follow in the footsteps of his predecessor Juppé, said that the victory of these terrorist groups is the solution to the crisis in Syria, adding that France is considering the Americans have done it and perhaps France will do it, giving not arms but extra communications equipment to the gunmen in Syria. The statement affirms the information published by some Arab and Western newspapers about the military aid being offered by the US, France and Britain and some Arab states to the terrorist groups with the aim of dividing Syria and marketing for the civil war in Syria.
Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said in an interview published in the Huffington Post newspaper that Russia is concerned over some parties' attempts to foil the plan of the UN envoy to Syria, Kofi Annan, adding that Moscow is working with Damascus to implement the plan. He said that part of these attempts are calls for foreign military interventions made by Istanbul Council. He went on to say that other plans that imply foreign interference, starting from blocking broadcasts of certain TV channels, increasing arms supplies to the opposition, or launching airstrikes, won't bring peace to this particular country or to the region, affirming that history would not tolerate such plans. Iraqi Foreign Minister Zebari stressed that any international meeting on Syria should include the participation of the countries concerned in the Syrian issue, particularly the neighboring countries, adding that marginalizing these countries is unacceptable under whatever pretext, particularly the neighboring countries. The Iraqi minister emphasized that the necessity of exerting pressure on all parties to abide by the Annan plan.